Hey guys, here she is, the Yamaha SR125. So this is going to be a little video review of this bike that I've been working on and got a bit of riding done on it. So yeah, let's just get it started and get right into it. Lovely, engine starts first time. And yeah, let's get out of here. So yeah, this is the Yamaha SR125 and it's a pretty basic 125cc bike. I ended up buying one off a co-worker for pretty cheap and fixing it up because it was a non-runner at the time, but I got it working now and I thought, oh, might as well do a little video review on it because it's a fairly fun little bike, so I thought this would be worthwhile. Yeah, so getting just right into it. Yamaha SR125. It's a 125cc bike. I mean, it's learner legal in the UK, so you just got to pass your CBT. And you can get straight on this thing. And you know what? I think it's a pretty great bike for learners. I honestly do. They're super cheap. You can get them for under 1,000 easily running. So, you know, I think that's a pretty big appeal because most people on 125s don't want to spend too much money on it because, you know, they're not going to stay on it for long. You know, they're going to want to move up to a bigger bike eventually. So you don't want to waste too much money on a 125cc. So I think having a pretty cheap bike, you know, there's a lot of appeal to it. And this bike in particular, it's a 2000 model. I believe all Yamaha SR125s are carburetor. I don't think they have any fuel injection models. But, you know, it's fine. I'd never worked on a carb before. I'd never had a carb bike. So first I was like, oh, it's probably going to be a bit annoying. It's not going to be great. But you know what? It's fine. If you learn how to use the choke on a carb and you learn how to... if you learn how to tune the idle and the fuel mixture, which is pretty simple, it sounds scary, but it's pretty simple, you'll be fine with these bikes. So yeah, I wouldn't stress out too much about it being a carb. This is the predecessor of the Yamaha YBR 125 actually. So this is what the YBR was replacing. And I had a YBR actually, that was my first ever 125cc bike. And yeah, they're pretty decent little machines. Yeah, so just going over the basic features of this bike. It's 125cc's, 5-speed manual gearbox, got 12 brake horsepower, a single front disc brake and rear drum brake, and I'm pretty sure it's non-adjustable suspension. And of course it's a carb bike. Another big thing about this bike is it's pretty lightweight. It is really lightweight. I think it's like 115 kilos or something. So it does feel pretty nimble and it is pretty fun just being on a tiny lightweight little bike. You know, it is a nice thing to have, especially, you know, with 125cc's when you're on a, you know, when you're on a UK learner license, you've got your CBT, your power's fixed, you know, you can't you can't get anything bigger than a 125. But if you can get a lighter bike, then you know what, it does become a bit more fun. It does, you know, it does bring a little bit more joy to the whole riding experience. So yeah, why would you buy the SR? Why would you buy the SR125 over, you know, any other 125 bike? Why the SR in particular? Well, I think there's a few reasons. I think the first one is price. I think, you know, these things are dead cheap because they're pretty old bikes. Like, they're 20-30 years old, and yeah, they're pretty cheap. You can get a running one for under £1,000. So this one I'm selling right now, I'm selling for about £850. So yeah, you can get a fully working bike with no real issues on it for under £1,000. I think that's a steal. So that's a nice thing about them. They're pretty cheap. The other thing, as I mentioned before, is they're lightweight. It just makes the bike feel a lot more nippy. It's just a lot more fun. It's hard to describe, but it's a lot more fun riding a light bike around. It does feel like it accelerates slightly faster, not substantially. It's still a 125. But it's nice just being able to throw it around. Like, you can really throw this bike around. It's super nimble, and that's something that's pretty fun. Also, it's less intimidating. It's much less intimidating for new riders if you're on a lighter bike. You know, you're less scared of dropping it or whatever, or not being able to wheel it around. Like, I think even smaller riders will be absolutely fine on this. Another thing, it's got super low seat height. I don't remember exactly what the seat height is. I'll get that up on the screen now. But yeah, it's got really low seat height, which makes it really nice, really approachable, and it makes it pretty comfy as well. You know, you can flat foot this thing, no problem. I think even the shortest of riders can have no problem flat footing this thing. Another thing with the bike, it's like it's kind of got like this mini cruiser styling to it. So what that means is it's just pretty comfortable. It's just a nice comfortable bike to sit on. It's pretty laid back. Like you're in a very neutral seating position. It's almost like sitting in a chair. It's really comfortable. The other thing about this bike as well, because it's older, I think the styling is pretty cool. I think it looks like a pretty cool and a pretty unique bike. A lot of modern bikes, they kind of all look the same, especially the 125s. They kind of have this waspy look to them, like the like the CB125F and the newer YBRs. They all look very similar. So I think this is quite a cool bike. It's a pretty retro looking bike. I like it. I think it's pretty cool. Another thing with it being older is I think the exhaust sounds pretty nice, to be honest. For a 125, which, you know, they can only sound so nice because it's a tiny little engine, right? They usually just sound like lawnmowers. But, you know, because it's an older bike, it didn't need to go through all the strict emission standards we have now. So I think the exhaust sounds a lot nicer. It definitely sounds nicer than my older YBR 125. So yeah, I think it's a pretty nice, you know, nice little exhaust on it. The other thing with these bikes is they're dead cheap to work on. So when I bought this bike, there was quite a bit of maintenance to do on it, and you know, I had to buy a bunch of parts for it and whatever. And it's so cheap. The parts are cheap. They're in abundance. They're not hard to find. Like honestly, it's such an easy little bike to work on, and you can do all the maintenance yourself, no problems. Just watch some YouTube videos. He's just flipped him off. That's nice. Not sure what's going on there. Yeah, true drivers in front are just, oh, fucking hell, shit. Yeah, someone's having a bad day. I'm just gonna try and get away from that, because that's not something I want to be involved with. Not on this tiny little bike, at least. Yeah, let's just squeeze in here. To just go over all the pros of this bike over other 125s is, first things first, they're dead cheap. I think that's the big one. They're super cheap. They're pretty reliable as well. It's a Yamaha, so you know it's going to be reliable. There's no problems with that. I'd rather have this old Yamaha over a newer Chinese bike, honestly. Next thing, the styling is pretty unique because it's an older bike. I think it just stands out a bit more. I think it's a pretty cool 125. It's super lightweight as well. I think the bike being really lightweight and nimble is actually quite fun. And this is only, so I checked it out, and I think this is only 10 kg lighter than the YBR, but you do feel it. And it's a small little bike as well. Like, the wheelbase is pretty short. It's really small, nimble and fun. I love that about it, you know. I think as far as 125s go, you know, as fun as they can get, this is, you know, it's on the more fun end of 125s. The other thing, the maintenance is super cheap as well. Insurance will be super cheap for these bikes as well, because if you compare it to the more common bikes like the YBR, the CB125s, the MT125s, R125s, they're super popular and they're gonna have loads of stats on them. But these bikes, they're a bit more niche, they're a bit more unique. So I don't know this for a fact, but I think you'll get cheaper insurance on this. I got quoted about £250, and that's me at age 21 with 1 year no claims and a full license. So not sure what it'd be like if you're, say, 18 and you've just got your CBT, but I'd reckon insurance is pretty cheap on these, but you're gonna have to check that out for yourself. I'm just about riding 125s because I've been riding my main bike, the XJ6, for a while now. So the 600cc, 800 brake horsepower, and then getting back on a little 125, a little, you know, 10-12 brake horsepower 125. There is something calming about it, you know. There is something pretty chill just about riding a small little bike. There's no real temptation to go fast. You're just kind of cruising around everywhere, and you know, it feels nice. It's a very, very chill bike. Let's do some filtering here. That's another thing. It's a very small bike, so the filtering's quite easy. It's you know, it's just a bit more nerve-wracking when you're filtering on a bigger bike. So it is nice to filter on something smaller. And then going over the cons, are there any cons, any drawbacks with this bike? I'd say the main one is just its age. Honestly, that's the only thing I can think of. It's an older bike, so most of them are going to be either in a bit of a state or higher mileage. So you're going to need to do a bit of shopping around to actually find one in good condition. But if you can find one in full working condition for under £1,000, I'd say go for it. You know, they're great little bikes. You get a lot of listings with people saying, oh, it's, you know, it's mostly alright, it just needs a carb clean or something like that. But honestly, if it doesn't run from the get-go, there's probably going to be 10 other issues you don't know about. So if it's a project bike, then sure, go for it, because they're pretty cheap to work on. But if this is your first bike and you just want it for going from point A to B, nah, make sure it runs, you know. I wouldn't be too scared about mileage as well. I think the main thing is, does it look like it's been taken care of, and does it run well? Because these things, you know, the 125cc engines from Yamaha, they're super reliable, they're super under stress. These things will last forever if you take care of them. So I wouldn't care too much about mileage. The main thing is, does it look like the owner's taking care of it, and does it run? Another con, I guess, it's a carb bike. You know, I'll be honest, fuel injection is just a bit more straightforward. It's a bit easier. You don't need to wait for fuel injection to warm up. Carb bikes, if it's a pretty cold day out, like it's winter now in the UK, if it's a cold day, you got to wait for it to warm up a bit. You got to open up the choke. But once you learn how all that works, it's not too complicated, and it's actually not that much of a hassle. So I wouldn't be too scared of carb bikes. You know, they're pretty simple to work on, and it's really not a big deal. But yeah, it is a little bit less modern. I'd say that's the main drawbacks with this bike. That's about it. There's nothing really wrong with it, and you know, there's not too much to say about it, so this is probably going to be a pretty short review. These 125s, they're super simple, super basic, there's not much to them, but you know, they're fun little bikes. I think they're pretty cool, and especially the SR125, I think it's a good learner bike. The two main things you want when buying a 125 is just cheap and reliable. That's it. That's the main things, because they're all the same. I'm going to be honest, they've all got that same 125cc engine in them, so they're all going to be more or less the same. So just get what you can afford and get what you think looks cool. I'd recommend getting from the big four Jap brands, but I know a lot of people with Chinese 125s and they're fine, but I do have a bias. I do have a preference to the Jap brands, so I'd say, you know, go for that. Oh yeah, and one other thing about this bike, not this bike in particular, this is about 125s in general. So these 125s, they operate really nicely for going around town, 30-40 miles an hour. They work fine, they're great, but they can do 60-70 miles an hour. The SR125 tops out about 65 miles an hour. Most 125s top out there. I've heard of people pushing their 125 to 70, I'm sure it's possible, but it tops out around 60-65 miles an hour. I'd say for this bike in particular, it will accelerate quite nicely to 50-55-ish, and then after that, you're really squeezing that last bit of power to get to 65. So yeah, you can ride them kind of fast, you can take them on you know, motorways, not if you're on a CBT learner license, but you can take them on, you know, A roads, which are 70 miles an hour. But the main thing I'd say is be careful with going fast on these kind of bikes. Ooh, a little bit of filtering here. Yeah, let's wait for this bus to pass and we'll start filtering. Yeah, we'll start filtering now. Sorry, I don't like to talk much while I was filtering, just want to concentrate on it. Ooh, cheeky little overtake. Ooh, fucking hell. Yeah, I don't want to slip on that. Sorry, where? Oh, yep. Cheers, thanks for that. It's almost like they were about to pull out on me. Sorry, I've completely lost my train of thought. I've lost where I am. Oh yeah, I was saying, so you kind of go fast with these bikes, and you're gonna want to when you're, you know, when you're learning. You just kind of want to push it. You want to, you know, have fun in these things. I was the same, but one thing I'd say is be careful, because my main gripe with 125s isn't their lack of power. It's their brakes. It's their brakes and their stability. They've got these tiny little tires, you know, barely thicker than bicycle tires. The 125 tires, they really are thin, and your brakes aren't very powerful. Most 125s have a single disc brake at the front and a drum brake at the rear. They're really not powerful things, so that's going to be your main concern. Sure, you can go a bit faster on these kind of things, but just be careful. Know that you're not going to be able to stop on a dime. You're going to need some time to slow down, and if you try slam the brakes on these bikes, they will quite easily slip out on you. It's happened to me before on my 125, on my YBR. So I just say be careful. You know, I know most learners, you know, they want to have fun, they want to push the bikes, which is fine. I was the exact same. But yeah, just be careful, and just know that your brakes aren't that powerful and your bike's not that stable. So if you try emergency brake at, you know, 60 miles an hour, you're going to be in for a rough time. So yeah, you just got to be mindful when riding these bikes. You got to be, you know, they accelerate slowly and they decelerate slowly, so yeah, you just got to be mindful of that. But yeah, that's not complaining of the SR125. That's just me going on a little tangent about 125s. But yeah, overall, I think it's a really great bike. I think it's a pretty cool bike. It looks cool, it sounds alright, and it's dead cheap. That's all that matters. Would I recommend it for a learner? Yeah, go for it. If you think it looks cool and it's in your budget, go for it. If you got a bit more money, you can buy something a bit more modern, but to be honest, it's not going to be much better than this. They're all about the same. They're the same thing. So really, when it comes down to 125s, buy what you can afford, and buy what you think looks cool, and preferably get something reliable. But yeah, it's not that deep. Don't stress about it too much. But yeah, I definitely recommend the SR125. I think the SR125 is a good choice. If that's the bike you end up buying as your learner bike, I think it's a really good choice, and you're not going to be disappointed, and you're going to have loads of fun. It's a great little commuter. It's great for learning, and yeah, you can have a bit of fun on it as well. So yeah, it's a solid bike. Not too much else to say about it. If anyone was looking into this bike, found this review helpful or anything like that, give me a like, subscribe, follow, whatever. Drop a comment. I really appreciate it, and it helps a lot. If you have any questions as well, drop a comment. I'll probably respond, you know. But yeah, cheers guys, and thanks for watching.